And here they are, the 10 syllables or 10 matrikas, maternal seed powers of Manipura in this very old version mentioned before, where the geometric shape is inverted. On the right, for some reason the artist didn't put the yoni triangle, but it's implicit. And here are the 10 characters with the seed point above it, much clearer in our image, where the little dot is the letter hung, the sound of the B. This tells us, as I've mentioned, that as we enunciate or utter out of breath pause each of these characters, that the practice is going to draw our awareness sonically into the point of the third eye associated with that sound of the B, this little dot. That's what pierces. Kundalini is often called the sound needle, the nada suchi, that pierces through the knots, threading a garland literally upward through the flowers or lotuses of the chakras, bursting through the granthis that block us from the state of pure consciousness that's free of suffering. And literally, she breaks apart that suffering in its subtle, or very subtle, condensed form. The release of past trauma in the body is healed by the mother from within you, as I sometimes half joke, saving us perhaps $1 million in psychiatry bills, something my father always said as a psychiatrist turned yogi. That's to say, how far can you get with your mind just thinking about it? Sure, it's good to speak and be heard and to get things off our chest. But if the mind returns the same issues over and over, the tantrics tell us that that's due to stuck gunk in the granthis, dravya, literally, which means emotional samskaric residue that has us thinking perhaps that we are limited, that we are trapped by our life situations, that we cannot find freedom outside of what we've created, etc., etc. So we invoke these 50 goddesses, 10 for our chakra here, Manipura, as needed in one instance, or you just do all 50 of them with the breath practice indicated. So back to the translation of our actual passage from the Jagannath scroll on Manipura. Moksha, Dashadhala, Dashamatra. There are 10 syllables corresponding to 10 petals. These are going to be now the syllables that are blazed visually. You are to visualize them while in breath pause. So that, of course, suggests that there's just a blank petal there. This is an interesting point to raise because in the chakra system as given to us, you have a very, very two-dimensional image from the paintings made for the Chakra Nirupana, that Hatha Yoga scroll from which, or rather manual, from which we've inherited the Kubjika's chakra system, in which you see, as you do here, the syllables blazoned upon the petals. Only in that text, unlike here, you're not given the practice. So this is, immediately observable that we're at a loss because you'll see websites and books on chakras that'll name, sometimes they'll name these syllables on the petals, but never any explanation that that's at least correct because we've been given the letters, but not where they come into play. The truth is, when you're doing your daily yoga practice, you don't see letters on the petals. You work them into this practice now. And so you're literally not just one being with one power Shakti of 5 Bija mantras, but now 50 mothers to guide you into the light of your own being. So here we have Dung Dung. I'll point if you want to take notes. Let's see, where are we? Beginning, right here. So this is Dung, Tung, Nung, Tung, Tung, Dung, Dung, Nung, Pung, and Pung. 10 characters in due order in the Sanskrit alphabet. You'll notice they sound quite alike. They form dentals and part of the labials in Sanskrit alphabet. And here they are. There are 10 mothers, matrikas, corresponding to these seed petals in due order. Kshama, she who is resistant, that power of resistance, of Durga energy, is the letter Dung. Kshama in Sanskrit, she who is resistant. or she who is obdurate, she who is the dam that won't be broken by the river of emotion, perhaps. So this is resistance, not towards, in terms of activating her, not towards that which we should experience, but it's honoring that power of resistance when we need to stand strong in, well, in our power, in our principles. Conversely, it's suggested indirectly here, because we could take this two ways, that maybe you're resistant to change. And so you have to bow to Kshama in this uttering of Dong to activate or ask her permission to release. Resistance is something that you're afraid to step into. So these are not goddesses out there, it's worth mentioning and repeating. These are your own powers. These are the powers that transcend thought, transcend mental preoccupation. They are the energies of truth and wisdom. Shaktis, matrikas, the mothers of your soul. Second, she who is the sacrificial offering. Sanskrit, medha, medha. So this H here is pronounced. So it's medha, long A. This is a bit of a conjecture, but literally means offering, sacrificial offering. The suggestion is that which is poured into the fire. So she is that which we drink in and sacrifice into breath pause, that which is burned up, the samskaras, the baggage that we're not going to stay focused on in this practice. I surrender this problem that my mind is obsessed with into the fire that is cultivated or sparked with the fuel of my in-breath. And I bow to she who might take this offering, might take this life issue and transform it into light. Medha. Number 3. Now we're on the pedal here on the left, or the east, as it were, well, facing the east. She who is ferocity, tivra, num, the syllable num. Number 4, she who leads, naya. Both of these sort of go together. Ferocity, tivra, it could also mean intense heat. It could be taken generically in that sense, that tivra, literally intense, but almost always in these texts connoting heat. We're talking about and activating the power that generates the flame of Kundalini Shakti. May this be the round that I open the central channel, perhaps, or the ferocity, which also correlates to courage. Vira Sudani, the wellspring, the fiery wellspring, I like to think, of ferocity that says yes to life. The Buddhists have an equivalent of this, I always like to imagine. Joyful participation in the sorrows of suffering. It's not to say there shouldn't be sorrow or anger. It's just to say that the ferocity has to do with courage, literally getting fired up. This is the goddess you invoke to get fired up. Nayaha then is she who leads that fire upward, the leader. Nayaha means from the root ni, to move forth, to lead. She is the leader. In other words, that power within that we hand over all of our confusion to take the reins. Dishana, for the syllable tongue. We're now at the top pedal. This is the character tongue. She who is wise, the wisdom. This reminds me of that wonderful Alcoholics Anonymous slogan, or at least it's used by AA. Give me the power to accept the things I cannot change. Give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the power to change the things that I can, and the dishana, the wisdom to know the difference. So we're talking about goddesses that work perfectly with the center in terms of that pivotal transformative energy of turning the lunar light into the fire of awakening, in the fire altar of our body. She who is the blue lotus, Pushkara, no idea what that means yet. Certainly has to do with the fact that this chakra in this system is said to be blue also. Well, I do have one idea. The blue lotus may be a reference to the third eye and the blue light, which is traditionally celebrated as the light of Shiva that comes through practicing Dhyoti Mudra, also called Paramamukhi, where you seal the orifices on the face with your hands and draw your awareness to the third eye. But we also have the third eye chakra, so that's not quite clear. But it may refer to the connection between the force that's driven from the navel, that bridge we were looking at before, of the 2 points of Kundalini, from the point of the navel, the jewel, to the point of the third eye where the blue light, the lotus of awakening, is experienced through the fire rising from Manipura. That's one possibility. She who is, this is my favorite, Hamsa Ghamini, she who is the waddling gait of a swan preparing to fly. Gamini means one who's, it literally means striding, one who is walking or waddling in this case. So this, of course, if you've seen swans getting ready to take flight from the ground, they waddle. Their weight shimmies back and forth, left to right, and they get a running gait going and take off. Well, this is a beautiful metaphor for the quivering fire or the flame of Kundalini, literally waddling or wavering, flickering as if within the sacrificial fire of breath pause in the navel. And so essentially it is Hamsa. Ha, again, meaning out breath. So this is the sun being held in the heart, in the navel. Sa is in breath, which is also being held and fused to the sun, the lunar breath. Together, when they fuse together through Samana Vayu, we have the M with a dot, Ha and Sa, come together and form Homsa, which means swan. So this refers to generating Kundalini, that goddess who blesses you to make that final connection to raise the door to the Sushumna Nadi, perhaps. The waddling before it flies upward in the practice of Uchara, Hamsa. She who moistens, Undani, might be a typo in the scribes. You can't see it here in this image, but I'm not completely sure, because if it's Udani, that would mean she who flies upward. That makes a lot more sense to me. So I think it could be a scribal error that this N is in the word, the first N, which should turn it into she who moistens. This could be a reference to the power that draws the in-breath down, which is often thought to be the elixir of Amrita, the nectar of the moon that fuels the fire, like ghee, clarified butter being poured into the fire pit. So it could be a reference to the goddess who guides that lunar breath, who moistens the fire in the navel. Or if you take out this N, as I might, then it would be Udani, she who flies upward, syllable num. And then 9 and 10, Lakshmi, not quite the same as our central goddess that we see here under my little crayon. This is Lakshmi, but when you add this Y, it connotes what Lakshmi does. So this is a secondary power associated with the pedal right down here, Pung, syllable Pung. She who brings fortune, she who brings blessings of this practice. And now finally, this makes perfect sense. The 10th character, Pung, is Amrita Devata. Amrita Devata. Devata, divinity. She who is the divine nectar of immortality, Amrita, meaning to say the nectar that is engaged or activated in the crown lotus when this fire rises all the way up the central channel, the core practice. So beautiful. All 10 goddesses are like helper mothers to the source power, Lakshmi, or you could think of it as they are ancillaries to Kundalini Shakti, being activated in the navel in this more intimate practice of accepting ourselves and asking the inflections of Mother Shakti to bless us as we need in our life, as the case may be. And then we end with the one performing internal puja, worship or ritual,